All right, avoiding feedback. Hello. Um, I actually have a camera today, and I am Eric. This is Reach Me. I work for Manticore Games, and I am going to be streaming our new product called Core. It's a tool to make video games. I will be making mechanics in it. As an engineer, I tend to write scripts and work on game mechanic stuff and not do much with the art, but sometimes I poke into that. Um, Generally, my pattern is going to be making pieces of logic that can be useful for others, sharing things, taking requests if that's, people have things they want made or need for their games, that sort of thing. And just generally showing people how this works. Hopefully, I am paying attention to chat and we'll see what people say. And yeah, that's what we're doing here. So I have a couple ideas for today. I wrote up a little document. I'll get to that in a minute. First thing I'm going to do, though, is just get right into it. Here's Core. You can download it, install it, coregames.com right now. It's free. It is free to use, it's free to play, it's free to create things. People ask a lot of questions about monetizing, and the answer is we don't have answers yet. But obviously, we want people to be able to monetize their things. We want to not go out of business, but that is about the best answer I can give you. Here are games that have been made. Some of these have been made officially by us. These ones here. Some of these have been made by people I work with, but they're unofficial. Some of these have been made by other people who have been in our alpha for a while. A lot of these, in fact. Roll Core Soccer, Sand Surfer, all made by other people. So I'm going to go into create mode. I did a little bit of this yesterday. Generally the way this goes is I end up making a map that has very little in it and spend much time scripting. I will, actually I should add this to my list. Make functioning games. Sometimes I'll actually make a game because that's fun and people like playing games, and it's one of the very big strengths of Core is that I can finish making a game or make pieces and test with people. And if I have people viewing, oh man. I just noticed I have viewers and chat. Yes, I do need to shave. That is correct. If I want to test with people, I can share the link immediately. We can play things, and it's fun to do. So the thing I'm going to do today, to start a little simpler, and to answer Sean in the chat here, I intend to make the talent selector in the next few days as well. And we'll get back into that. But for now, I'm going to make an empty project again and call it Chiclets. All right, so I have a lot of design opinions. This is a personal opinion of mine. They're probably not the only game that has this. In fact, I'm certain it's not, but I first learned about these in League of Legends. If I load up my browser and look at League of Legends screenshots. All right, so this has what I need. Let's get bigger. Okay, so these are chiclets. The health bars are divided into little pieces, and they're not arbitrary. The meaningful thing they have here is that they tell you how much health a person has, because each thing is 100 health, I think. At least that's how it used to be. And so this guy, who's got little, much closer together black things, has more health. This guy's not even more health. Meanwhile, Soraka over here has very little health. It's very quick to read how much health someone has. It's very useful in games where you have different amounts of health. And I feel like this is a tremendous, honestly, a breakthrough in how health bars are showed. And should have been mainstream in every game since then, and some reason they are not. I don't understand that. That being said, game designers do questionable things sometimes. And I have strong opinions about these things, so we're going to take the health bars that Core currently has, we're going to add chiclets to them. I haven't thought about this ahead of time, so I might be doing a lot of backtracking and thinking about how I'm going to make them work. That's all right. All right, so here's Core. If you haven't used it, you guys all used it. You have a viewport, you can make levels, you can place things in the world. You've got your hierarchy, it's all the pieces in the world in a tree structure so they can parent things to each other. You've got menus, you've got your own stuff, core stuff, community stuff. We're going to go into core content, go to game components. These are logic pieces that you can drag in your game, and I made most of these. We're going to find, let's search for it, health bar. That one. No, that's actually what I want. So the health bar, I'll show you, is this thing at the bottom that shows you your own health. That doesn't help me. I mean, you could have checkouts on it, but you really don't care about your own health because you know how much you have. You care about everyone else's health. And those are nameplates. And also health bars. Alright, so you drag this in the scene, it doesn't do anything at all. If you hit play, I now have a nameplate over my head. It shows my health, it shows my name. If I have 2 players, loading, loading, loading. Now I can see the other person's health bar. I can see mine. They're both blue because we're on the same team, because that's the default setting, is that everyone's on the same team. Alright, so for a little bit of deep testing here, I'm going to take this spawn point. If I hit V, it appears. And clone it, drag it over here, and change it to team 2. So now we have 2 spawn points, one on team 1, one on team 2. You see the blue and red. And then, do I have player settings? I don't have team settings. All right, we'll add a few more things to this. Game settings. Sure. Create settings object, team settings, and respawn settings. All right, for team settings, team versus, that's the default. That's fine. Respawn settings, you actually do want to respawn rather than just be dead forever. Close to spawn point, 2 seconds. And let's take these guys and put them in a folder. Drag this guy in there with it. 2 and spawn points. Alright, and we're going to lock the default folder so I can't click on it. Great. So now if I do 2 players, they should end up in different teams, and their health bar should be red. Ha! I have revealed a bug. Let's add a 3rd player. We'll definitely be into the team. There we go. Alright. So sometimes 2 players in preview mode are not on different teams, even when they should be. Okay. So nameplates are, we're kind of diving into the deep end here. It's a simple change to make, but their actual code is complicated. These are all the properties that I put on the nameplates you can change, so you can customize them a lot without having to look at the code at all. You can change whether or not you see the names, if you see the health bars at all, how far you see the health bars on teammates and enemies, how big they are. Yeah, well, no, the colors, you can read through this. Change animation time is when you take damage or heal, it animates a little bit. It shows you a quick animation. I'm going to show you this. Let's do something simple. Gameplay object trigger. All right. So a trigger, it's way over there for some reason, is a box that can do things with script when you touch it. We're going to put it here, or a cube, so we can know where it is. Cube in the same spot. Put it a lot lower. Make it look a little better. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I want the material. Okay. Then we're going to make this one red, and we're going to make a trigger script. Vert player. Simple. All right. Put these all in a group together. So I'll show you that again. I drag the trigger over here, and it makes a reference to it. So when I open up the script, I can take this sample right here, and I can do stuff with the trigger. Actually, rename the variable a little bit, and then what we want to do, if I go to help, this we're going to open the wrong browser. Let's open Chrome. Lua API documentation. 1 second. I'll drag that over. Found it. Alright. So this is our documentation. Shows all the functions you can do, use all the properties, all the everything you can do. And what we need is to find the trigger type. And it has 3 events on it, 3 things you can connect to and have run logic when that happens. Interacted, these are for things that actually have a prompt on screen, you have to press a button to do something. And overlap, begin overlap. So in our case, we just want begin overlap. That's usually what you want if you just want to touch a thing and something happens. So we write a function. If you notice, it takes a trigger and an other, which is just whatever touched it. And then we connect our function to that trigger. And then if we were to say print hello in here, and then go back here, try it. If I touch this, you see hello showed up in the event log right down here. Touch it again and again. Every time I touch it, it'll appear. We don't want to do that. We don't hurt the player. So we can test things. Instead, if other is a player, is a general safe thing to do on a begin overlap because you can overlap other objects. You could have a game that where you throw a ball at a trigger and it will trigger something. And we don't want to try to do something that you can't do to a non-player object because it'll just break the script. Other apply damage, damage.new 20. Alright, so damage is a type. We made a new one, and apply damage is a function on the player that will apply damage to them. I can, it's player, yeah, this right here, here's an example of what I just wrote. Alright, so now, if I go in here by myself, I touch this thing, suddenly I took 20 damage. You see the animation of the health bar? If I do it one more time, I'm going to die. Great, and it fills up when it heals. Okay. So, our nameplate script is a lot of text. It does a lot of things. One thing it does, and when I looked at some other games that work with nameplates, is that it's in the world. It's actually 3D. So if I, nope, not there, cube. Oh, I see, I made the wrong cube before. Where did our default cube go? Oh, it's way up here. Whatever. Okay. So if I drag a cube into the world to make a wall, alright, a wall. You notice my health bar actually goes, oops, my health bar actually goes into the wall. It's actually in 3D space above my head. So if I'm behind a wall, people can't see my health bar, and it just kind of looks in the right place. But I even looked in some games, and it clipping into the wall actually is kind of a thing that games expect. That's annoying, I need to fix that. Take the camera, change the offset to 0 so it's centered. It's not right behind my character, and then I can't embed the camera in the wall. Alright. So, get back here. What this does is it actually takes a bunch of pieces of cube, or I guess cube pieces, and rearranges them to make the health bar. So it spawns this other template. If you look at the custom properties here, there's a nameplate template, which I can find in here now, which is helper nameplate. That's the name of the template. It's right here. It has a bunch of cubes. It's got references to all the pieces in it so that the script can access them. It's got a border, a background, a health, and change, and then it has text on it. And the script itself, if we look at a few pieces of it, when a player joins, which is this huge function here, we spawn a new one, and then we this variable is a table, and we put a new entry in that table and set all the pieces, set all the properties we need. We take all the pieces of the nameplate and put it in there, so we have references to them. We set some values of the player, so we know how to animate it. We actually attach the thing to the player, so it sticks above your head. We color some pieces that aren't going to change later, based on the properties they had on here. Some pieces do change, some don't. We set the visibility of things correctly, mostly off. And then if they have some options, show health bars, animate changes, show numbers, whatever. We set these all the right things. And when they leave, we destroy their nameplate. Then we have this big tick function down here. This is run once a frame, and it updates everything. And the way it does that is by going through for every player, we find their nameplate. If we don't have one, which should never happen, but there's probably a bug that caused this to happen originally, or maybe like the first frame they joined or something. Then is it visible? This is another function that checks if they're close enough, if they're on the right teams, all that stuff. If not, we hide it. If it is, then we rotate it and set all the visibility and sizes and colors and everything that makes it look like a health bar. Rotating it makes it appear always aligned with your screen. All right. So what we want to change is we want it to have chiclet-like pieces. There's kind of two ways to go about this. One is, should it just be a health bar behind little separators that just kind of show you where the health is? And therefore you can have 3.5 chiclets. I think that's probably the right way to go. It's pretty simple. it you could get real specific about it and say you don't want it to. I could draw a picture, I guess. Need like a physical piece of paper. Square. If you have chiclet markers here, here, oops, and your health bar is just enough to go to like there-ish. You don't want, but you might not want it to like change a little bit and not be visible because it's covered up by the separator. You might want to actually like individually fill each square, and then like as soon as that one's full, it starts filling up the next one. You might not want to do partial squares at all. You might just want to do like however many squares you have, that's what you have. There's a couple different styles here. I think we should pick one. I think the way I'm going to do this is just have the health bar behind it and just put some markers over it. That's pretty simple and will generally work pretty well. So first thing I'm going to do is put some properties on the thing itself because this is where you'd want to let people decide if they want this. Show chiclets. Chiclets probably have a K in it. I don't know. I wonder if that's a brand name. Let's find out. Like the chewing gum, right? Chiclets. Yeah, that's a registered trademark. Oh, it's just a C. Haha, I was right. It does not have a K in it. Well, that's an unfortunate thing, because that means I can't use it for an official name. We will figure out what to call these later. All right, and then chiclet size, and I'm going to put a custom property or tooltip on this. This is how much health each chiclet is. And for now, we'll just do a single number. In League, I believe 1,000 is one thing and 100 is a different thing. And depending on your game, you might have large ranges of health there you want something fancy, but for now, simple is going to do most of the time. How much health should be represented by each chiclet? All right, and default, I'm going to say is 20. And I want the colors to be last, so I'm going to move this slowly up to, yeah, about there, with chiclet stuff next to each. Spell colors. All right. So now we have two new properties, and you're right in the middle. Show chiclets and chiclet size. Take it here. Up in this big block of stuff. Where do they go? Before friendly name color. Okay, right here. I should probably figure out a better name for these before I put this in 20 different places. Chunks. I don't know. Yeah, we'll end up changing it later anyway. Okay. Chiclet size. So we have two new variables, and so you'd imagine, health bar, you'd want the chiclets to be the same color as the background. It look like the health bar is just split into sections, not to have a separate color or something like that. So we're just going to take the background color and assume that's what they want, but we can't actually, it's much easier, rather than splitting up the health bar into pieces, it's much easier to just put something over in front of it. If I pause and look real close, you can see that these aren't quite on top of each other. They have a little bit of 3D depth so that they're guaranteed to render in the right order. Realistically, they are currently cubes and they should just be single planes. I did not know that existed when I made this, but that's all right. We will make more. All right, the other thing we need, so we can't just use a nameplate template because you might need an arbitrary number of these, right? Instead of the nameplate template where you have one of each of those 6 pieces and that's all it ever takes to make a health bar, you might need 50 little separators. So we're making another template. Let me look at helper nameplate again to see what it has in it. These are just cubes with opaque emissive. Okay. So that is a material that I like to use sometimes because it doesn't respect lighting at all. You notice that this thing is not dark on the top or dark on the sides. It just is exactly the color you say, no matter what. It is very simple. The artists hate it, but it's useful sometimes. It does have a property. The reason it's called opaque emissive is that you can set it to be overdriven, give it a brighter than 1 value, and then it glows. That's not what we're doing. All right. So I'm going to take one of these and just copy it out here and call it chiclet separator. And then it's exactly the same thing. And we're going to create a new template from this. Parator, all right. And then we need a reference to that. Chiclet template, probably separator. I feel like I'm still spelling chiclet wrong, even though I just looked it up. Is it really like that? It is really like that. Okay. Who made this company? All right, so we need that property as well. It goes here. So my style for this, I've done this a lot of times, is that the properties that are on the script are things that a person would not want to change unless they really were looking at the internals of it. They're first. Whoops. They're first. The properties on the template itself are things people would want to change. They're next. And then in this case, I separated out colors because there were just so many of them I wanted to separate section. Okay. I do, because this is an official template, I've been very rigorous about it. I should add to this as well. So I check that all their properties are in reasonable ranges and give them errors if not. So I'm going to check chiclet size. If it is less than or equal to 0, that doesn't make any sense. You're going to have a number that I don't want to do with it. So I'm going to set it to 1. Actually, I'm going to set it to 20. I'm just going to a reasonable default if they try to put some nonsense in here. Chiclet size must be positive. Okay. So the catch here is that not only do I need to put these separators over things, but I also need to add and remove them as their health total changes. So I don't know that I need to remove them so much as add them. If someone's, I'm trying to imagine like, they're all get cleaned up when the player leaves anyway. So what is the case where you want to, where you care about removing them as you go? Is where someone at some point had a very large amount of health and then had much less health for a lot of time. That seems pretty unlikely. If they're maxed out at 10,000 health, then there's probably other times in the same game they'll hit 10,000 health, in which case they need that many. But I don't know how much health they can have in the future, so I just have to create them as I need them. So in here, this is a big table with lots of properties in it. I'm going to have one called chiclet separators. So right in the initialization, where should I put this? Show chiclets. And templates player chiclet separators equals, so it's a blank table. We'll create them as we need them. Because if your chiclets are set up to be 100 health and you only have 50 health, you don't need any of them at all. You only need one when you have more than that much health. Beans, I like it. I wonder if people know what that means. Alright, so then when the player leaves, we're going to have to go through and destroy these things because we're spawning them on the fly. So before we even do this, or after, it doesn't matter. Let's do it first. Alright, so for loop in Lua, we take our table that we just made here that we're going to put things in. You call pairs on it, and it gives you key value pairs. Every table is just an associative array. That's the only data type at all that Lua has. The only container type. I don't care what the keys are. They're just going to be numbers. I just care about the chiclets. So you get each one, and you destroy them. Great. Make sure we don't leave those laying around. What would literally happen is if I didn't do this is that when a player left the game, they'd just have things floating over their head for the rest, like where they used to be, and they'd never move. All right. So now in here, we update a bunch of things. So this only happens if you're showing health bars. And we don't care about animating changes. So we want another section down here. Update chiclets. if use chiclets, what do I call it? Show chiclets? Yeah. Entry key is having trouble today. Alright, so where is the players? This takes function, I'm doing a big for loop over all the players. And I have a nameplate object already, but I'm going to need to get more stuff from player. I need player max hit points. And that's not how Lua works. And chiclets equals player max health divided by chiclet size. All right, let me think about this because that's not quite right. Basically, these are both floats. So this is going to be like a fractional number, like 3.5 or something. One way to do this is to do an integer divide, which you put an extra slash on it. Another way to do this is to use floor and ceiling functions. If you have exactly the chiclet size of health, let's say the chiclets are 20 and you have 20, you don't need any at all. If you have, as soon as you have 20.1, you need 1. If you have, so I don't want to round down, I want to round up, so I want to use ceiling. And I don't actually remember how that function works, so I don't use it very often. Ceil, it's not in here at all. That means it's a built-in Lua function. Okay, so way down here somewhere, built-in Lua functions. Math.ceil. It's probably just that, but I'm going to check. So here's a link to the actual official Lua reference manual. Math.ceil. All right, returns the smallest integral value larger than or equal to x. Great, that's what I need. .ceil. All right, so one catch here. If I have 20 hit points and I have 20 chiclet size, I don't need 1. This is going to be 1. If I had 30 hit points and 20 chiclet size, this would be 2, and I only need 1. So we have to subtract 1 from this. For I equals, so then I need to spawn all the ones we don't have. So the nameplate is the entry in this table I made up here. And it has chiclet separators field, so I just went crazy. So this is an operator in Lua that says, how big is this table? And what it does is it looks at, it says, does this table have an entry whose key is 1? Does the table have an entry whose key is 2, 3, 4, until it finds one that's not there and says that's how many we've got. So if you use a table in kind of a mixed fashion, if it has a key that's a string and a key that's a player, and then a key that's a number, it's going to be very confused and maybe the wrong thing. So you generally use tables in one of two ways. Either all of the indexes are consecutive numbers and you pretend it's an array, or they're just kind of all over the place and you don't use this operator at all. In this case, I want to say, how many do we have? And then our maximum number is how many we need. And I believe this is the starting number, so I want to add 1 to this. Basically, do I need more? This is how many more I need. Another way that might be more intuitive to do this, I do, does not indent. Let's do it the other way then. Okay. So I'm saying, this is how many we need. This is how many we have. Subtract the number. I don't need that anymore. That's how many times we want to create a new one. So table.insert is a Lua function, back to here, that pretends you have an array. It will look at the, it will try to add it to the next available spot. So it basically calls this operator again and says where's the next place to put something in, and does that. Well, that removes the opposite. It tends to move things over. It can be kind of an expensive operation if you have a very large table. If you have 1,000 elements and you remove element 3, it's going to shift every single thing over, which can be kind of slow. But we're not going to have more than 10 or 20 here, so whatever. Computers are really fast, it turns out. All right, so this is how many we need. So we want to world.spawn asset, which is called up here somewhere. I believe it's this guy right here. Same deal. And chiclet separator template. In fact, my naming could be better, because these aren't chiclets, they're chiclet separators. Okay. So I spawn a new one, stick it in the table. Great. Now we have enough of them in the table. Convenient. Then we have to put them in the right positions. So, and adjust their scales and a couple other things. I haven't looked at this code in a while, so we're going to do a little bit of digging. The first thing let's see. So we need to adjust their scale. That should be pretty straightforward. They should have the same height as the health bar and the same width as the border. Although actually that will roundabout way because the border is actually just behind in a full size thing. I just need to figure out what the difference is there. The position, the vertical is pretty easy. It's the same as the health bar itself, but the horizontal, it needs to be in. I'm going to do a little bit of math to figure out where they should fit. That shouldn't be too bad. And it's possible that we'll find that we want them skinnier than the border. That might be too much. We also might find that we need to make them a little bit taller because of the fact that it's a trick and they're 3D. If they're exactly the same height and you pan the camera real quickly, you might see funny aliasing lines at the top or bottom, which would look kind of bad. In fact, I'm almost certainly going to do that. Probably make them halfway into the border. So if I don't have paint open anymore, let me draw a picture instead of just saying what I'm thinking. Nope, black. Paint, I don't know how you work sometimes. Fill. How do I fill? Solid color. Basically. Perfect. Why don't we just do that? Okay. So what I'm thinking is I will put a separator like this. So it's the same width as the border. It's in the right position horizontally. Same height as the health bar, and it will go halfway into the border on top and bottom. So it's a little bit of overlap to make sure you don't see any funny edges if you're looking at it slightly from above or below. All right, so now we go through all the separators. And you'll see the wonderful experience of programming where I go through all this and end up with something that's horribly broken and doesn't do what I want at all. That's the true experience. Alright. So first thing we're going to look for is the scale. Where's the health bar piece? And does it even change? Set scale right here. Okay, this is great. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set scale. So the way I work, to shortcut a little bit here, the entire block of health bar pieces is parented together and moved as one. In fact, I need to do that or it's not going to work. So that I only have to rotate them once in one place, which is this function up here. That's the rotation of the template root itself. I don't need to worry about setting each piece to rotate correctly or positions relative to the camera and a bunch of complex math. I just parent all the same thing and do it in relative to each other, then move the one thing. So when I spawn these, I need to give them a parent or they're going to be not at the right place at all. And in fact, I think I just want to give them the same parent as everything else, which is the template root of the nameplate itself. So they will actually, you won't be able to see it because they're parented to the player and players don't appear in the hierarchy, but they would appear in this structure. Like they'll just spawn in here, even though that's not where I want them. Outside of. Alright. That needs curly braces. These are optional arguments that have names. You can do a bunch of them when you spawn things. Alright, setting scale. So when you have vector, we're just going to take this whole line, copy it up here, and see what it does. Alright, so X is going to be nameplate layer thickness. What does that define? Makes it a little wider. Remember which axes I have these on? Okay. 0.01, that's how thick the cubes are. That's I guess the same as the player. X is forward. That's the first one. Then we have the right. This is the one we're going to change. And then we have the height. That's we're also going to change that a little bit. So we need to figure out how big the border is. Where is the border piece? I bet that part doesn't change at all. But it's up here. I don't remember which one's. Oh, the background. Okay, the difference between the border and the background. The background is behind the health bar where you're missing health. The border is the whole thing. So 2 times border width is. Look at that. Define border width. 0.02. That's how big the border is. Great. That's exactly what we need. So we come down here. So it's going to be health bar height plus border width. That's a half on top, half on bottom. And the width of it is just border width. Okay, so now we have a bunch of chiclets, they're right size. Why did that not? I mismatched parentheses. Yes, I did. Okay. Set position. It's funny, I'm normally pretty anal about putting these in the right order, or the order I perceive them in my head, which is position, rotation, scale, but in this case it's kind of a very different meaning, so I guess I left it the other way around, and I'll keep it that way. Alright, position, same deal, but not quite the same values. So these are the layers, so X position is what, let's see where that comes up, set position throughout here. The change in the health bar are at -1. Wow, there's not a lot up here. Interesting. Health text is at 50. Okay. It has to be, I remember why I did this. The text itself does not have thickness where the cubes do. So even when I make them small, they end up the text has to be way out in front. So then we have -1 for the health bar itself, -2 for the background, -3 for the borders of the layered. I actually have to change all of this. We need a new layer in the middle. So we're gonna go 4, 3. Leave that one the same, and then move all these ones to 2. And our new separator is going to be at 1, so they're in front of it. Great. And then Y, this is the thing I actually need to figure out and do some math. And then D, they are dead center. They're not up or down. If I figure out the math here, this might actually be all we need. That would be exciting and not have time to do other things. I did not expect this. Sometimes I have tasks that I want to do for a long time, but they aren't important, so I assume they're going to take a while. All right, so we know the player's max health, and we know how big each chiclet is. We want to position them so that they're evenly spaced out, but also basically represent that exact spot in their health bar. I think the way to do this, in the naive approach, is to take the width of the entire health bar, not with the border. So from there to there-ish, this guy, and just place the center of the chiclet separator at exactly that fraction. So if you have 100 health and chiclets are 50 health, obviously you want dead center. But if you have many chiclets, you want them to be spaced out so that each segment is the same size, including the first one. That's actually important. Let me think about this for a little bit. Yeah, I need to be a little careful with what I just did, because I don't want the first or last ones to be different. Like the last one might be a different size because it might not be a round number. I don't want the first one and the second one to be different sizes. So if when I place this in, half of it's going to cover up the one on the left, half is going to cover the one to the right. So to make them the same size, I want to assume that the health bar goes halfway into this and is halfway covered, basically. So we're going to local health scale equals, which way do I want this? Player.max hit points divided by, where's the health bar? I don't want the health bar, I want the border. Health bar width. This guy right here. Okay. Man, I named these variables like really straightforward. This is great. Where was I just? Right here. Okay. So that's the full width of the border all the way to the edges. I want to subtract one border width from that. So same as I did with the vertical, I want 1/2 of each side. And that's how wide this virtual health bar is that we're going to put the separators on. And then down here, and this might be upside down. I'll figure it out in a second. Or inverted. I'm going to take that scale and multiply it by, actually, I need the index, so I know which one I'm replacing. I times chiclet size divided by health scale or times health scale. Let's multiply it. That's what scale is for. So basically, this is going to tell us how many pixels do we need this inverted. That is one famous last words. The entire width is how many pixels wide, or what arbitrary units wide this thing is, and divided by hit points, that's how many units wide a single hit point is. Then we take that value and we multiply it by how wide a chiclet is and which one we're on. Incidentally, Lua indexes by 1, so the very first one is 1 chiclet size in, so it'll be in the right spot. I think this is everything we need. It's going to create Lua errors and not work at all, and that's how that works. Lua errors. Bam. Alright, didn't even spawn the thing at all. 72. Attempt to compare nil with a number. What does that mean? Let's find line 72. Wow, we're way up here. Chiclet size. Alright, it didn't find the property at all. That's because I forgot to do a change. I made some mistake yesterday a bunch. These properties are not on the script, they're on component root, so when it tried to look for the property, it wasn't there, and it just set this to nil. In Lua, everything that is not a thing is nil. Like, really, you can try to access a variable that's not there, you get nil. I had a coworker who, either by choice or by accident, forgot that it was called nil in Lua and just called it null like it is in C++, and everything worked. Like, he just typed null, and it worked because that's not a thing in Lua, so it's nil. Anyway, alright, we fixed bug number 1. We'll stop our preview. It updates our script. Hit play. Different error. Sweet. Well, now I got help out of our head. That's something. 280. Expected string received static mesh. That is wild. What did I do? 280. Oh, yeah, okay. So table insert needs to know what table it's inserting into. Instead, I just gave it the thing I wanted to insert. So this is the table I want to insert it into. That is the first argument. All right, 280 again. Maybe it didn't update fast enough that time. Or I didn't save it out. Nope, still there. Receive stack mesh. 280. That was the line I changed, right? Chiclet separators. That is the thing I set to a table. Nameplates player. That's what our nameplate is. Well, let's print. So print knows how to convert everything to a string, or every object knows how to convert itself to a string, and if you just give it a single object, it'll give you something hopefully useful. Table. That's table. Okay. Oh, 280. Hold on a minute. So that is a table. We pass it to table.insert and it doesn't like it? That's wild. What is it doing? Let's look at table.insert. List value. We don't need position. Yep, that's what I'm trying to do. I've yet to hit a case where something was actually bugged and not just me doing something stupid, so I assume there's some explanation here. Print this, actually save that off to a separate variable just to test. Still 281. Oh, okay. This is helpful. Separator template. I got it. All right, so when I split it out, the error was on this line, not on this line. So I was misinterpreting that. So we're going to move this back into here. I know it's wrong now. All right, So the clue was I will scroll up here, and this has wait for object on it. Wait for object is for a core object reference. It is saying there's a type that is a reference to an object, and there's a type that's actually the object itself. And it's saying, hey, wait, let's actually get the object. Let's wait for it. In a script that runs on the server, this doesn't matter. The object's always there, of course. The server has all the objects, or generally. For a client script, the objects are kind of reproduced as the network has, or sent over the network, like network objects, as they have bandwidth and can show up. And so that might not work. It might not be there yet. And you want the client script to not run and try to use things that aren't there and break horribly. So I made the wrong kind of thing. What I did is I actually dragged this object right here into here, which I don't, these are just things I need put there to build them and show you how they worked. So now it's a missing object. Okay, so that's wrong. Chiclet actually, let's cancel that. Let's get the name of it. So what I want is that guy, the actual definition. Okay. So that is improved, and then we're going to take this right off the end, because now it's a different type, and hopefully our spawn function works. We're back to string received nil. That's new. Chiclet separator. No, I didn't actually rename it. Oh, because I'm not. Alright, renamed it. Aha! That kind of worked. It went the wrong way. And the wrong color. I forgot to set their color. And to actually show how this works, I will need to make some things that change my health total, which is fine. In fact, I can have a very easy way to do that. All right, so they're not black. That's obvious. So here, let's see where we set the color. Border piece, set color, border color. That line right there. Down here, when we're spawning things, well, we do need a separate line after all. So local chiclet separator equals blammo. And then set its color to border color, and then stick it in here. Okay, so now it'll be black. Why are they positioned the wrong way? That's a positive number, that's a positive number. Chiclet size. Why should be to the right, right? See. Do some printing. Okay. So string.format is a function kind of like printf or a lot of other languages functions that you can give it a format string and variables and it puts together a string for you, and then print takes that. So I'm going to look at the index of the thing. So 1 should be the leftmost, then 2, then 3, then 4, and where it thinks it's putting it. It's going to spam the hell out of this, but as expected, 30, 60, 90, 120. Why are they... Maybe 0 is the middle. I bet 0 is the middle. Okay. And apparently positive numbers are left. That is slightly baffling, but we will take that assumption and, because I can't remember how I did this before, and try to work with it. All right, so we know how wide this entire thing is. It's this number right here. So we need to take half that amount. Local chiclet base offset. All right. You know what? This is order of operations. Before I assume that that's what's happening, let's actually fix this function. You need to add those together before you divide, rather than the other way around. Now they're all in the middle. Okay, that's something. Print. Poop. Okay. Chiclet size is 20, right? That's what I set it to on here. It did have the right number of them. I don't know why Slime does this sometimes. I wonder if position and scale have different units here. Maybe I'm not setting these together correctly. I remember thinking about this a whole lot when I wrote it in the first place. So those numbers were just way too small, presumably. Position, I guess there is kind of a way I can do this, right? I can pause and actually grab the thing over my head sometimes. I can't, because it has no selector widgets. It's probably not collidable. Why are they so small? Bar width and border width. Are units of scale, I see. So health bar width is very small. How wide is the health bar actually? They're just centered, they're at 0. Okay, let's look at the health unit itself. Health piece offset. Oh, there's a 50 in here, okay. So we literally just add a factor of 50 because cubes are a meter to a side. So if you want to go into position space from scale space, you have to multiply by 50 or 100. Let's multiply by 50 and see what we get. Okay, not enough. It kind of did what we wanted, but it is... Question is then, did this go left from center or right from the middle? Let's find out by adding 100. It went left from center. Okay, so we actually do need the offset. So the offset is... We want it to start from the left and go to the right instead of the other way around. So we're going to take this and subtract the other number, because apparently negative goes to the right. And this is a positive number. It probably needs 100 in it as well. Let's do it that way for now. Aha! Chiclets. Look at that. The number looks kind of weird with the chiclets. Probably should be above or below it. But it works. Alright, so now we need some more triggers to test this out. Actually, no, I have the other thing I was going to do. Spell shock weapons. Spell shock weapons change your health level, and they're totally in here. Look at that. Alright, so these are... Where did those go? 40 content. Weapons in the Spell Shock example game. The Fire Staff, the Ice Sword, the Rock Hammer, Poison Crossbar, Lightning Gauntlet. These change your health bar, your health total. So I have 100 health, pick up the hammer. That didn't change my health total and gave me script errors instead. I want a refund. Deprecations. Effect manager, maybe that doesn't work. Let's try some other ones. Yeah, okay. Well, I will report to my coworker that this is borked and whatever. Let's try a different way of doing this. First, let's get that print statement out of there. Where did I leave that? Right here. Then we're going to take this guy. That's not right. That's kind of what I wanted. To 0 this group out and then move things accordingly. Put the widgets in the middle of the group. All right. 3 of them. We don't want anymore. Probably. So one of them's going to give me more health, one of them's going to give you less health. So it makes more. Increase health. Decrease health. Probably make one that heals you too, but eh. Okay. So one of these needs to reference the trigger, and I'm just going to copy the initial script into each of them because they're basically the same thing. Decrease health. Max hit points equals other dot hit points times 1.2. Decrease times 1.9. So that's not the same number. You end up with strange values. That's kind of what I'm going for to show how it works with fractional numbers. So we increase. This is totally working. Decrease. Ooh. Haha! We don't destroy them or hide them. We forgot about that entirely. This is why I test things. Kind of cool effect though. Ooh, right off the edge. Alright, so that's kind of valid. That's off the edge because you're not supposed to have health over max health. If you change max health, you're supposed to fix that. In this case, I would say the way I would do this correctly is to, after you reduce the hit points, say, hey, do we have more health than our maximum right now? If so, lower it down a little bit. Otherwise, just leave it as it is. And we increase health. I'm going to heal you for the amount that was increased. So if you have 50 out of 100 health and you go to 120 health, you should now be at 70 out of 120. Keep them at your missing constant. Other dot hit points equals other dot plus other dot max. Alright, so this was how many health hit points you had before. Here's how many hit points you have now, maximum. Take the difference, that's how many we just gained, and now we need to increase that current hit points by that amount. So these should now be more consistent. And then we should actually fix this thing where they go off the end. Alright. So the first thing we're going to do is let's see. So I don't even want to, I don't want to bother wasting computation on the things you can't see. So I'm going to say, here's how many we need right now. If we have more than we need, that's fine. We're just going to hide the other ones and leave them where they are and make them visible again when we need them. So instead of iterating this way, the Lua style, I'm going to iterate through how many we have. That was a poorly named variable. I just literally index on the table. Say, okay, let's get the one we need. Great. We also want to make it visible. I realize this is kind of feels redundant to do this every frame. But this is actually just really not is really cheap at all. Like, it's not expensive at all when it runs. It will just say, hey, this thing's already visible. Great, we're done. All right, and there are 3 options for visibility. This is a newish feature. They're force off, it's visible. Force on, it's visible. And here it is, take whatever your parent has. You basically never want to use force on unless you explicitly have behavior where you need that. Collision has the same options. Inherit is the default on, because if I wanted to hide the entire nameplate template and turn visibility off on the root, I don't want the chiclets to be visible suddenly when everything else is hidden. Okay, so that should turn them on and not process the ones that aren't there. Then we need to hide the ones that we're not using. For I equals, let's see how I want to do this. Yeah, I guess we just go through and do it every frame rather than trying to check and see what changed. Alright. So the first one we don't need to however many we actually have. So most of the time this loop will not run at all because those numbers will not be needed. It's only when you've lost health that suddenly it's doing something. And then we do, basically I'm just going to copy paste these exact 2 lines and turn it to force off instead of inherit. Alright, let's try this out. So increase my health, see it actually keeps the total constant. Decrease my health. And I don't have things going off the edge. Looks correct. These don't look fantastic, but that's a topic for another stream. That is pretty cool. Alright, so the only thing I have left to do is make these not called chiclets. I like beans, but I'm going to see if other people have names they've used for these before that I just haven't heard of. And then I'm going to make them actually official. We needed them for... Let me save this. And upload template. Save again, I guess. Games. Cannons Corsairs. I don't know if you've seen this game. You can play it if you want. Although I'm going to go back to scripting in a minute unless you guys really want to play. Ow. Alright. So you pilot your ship around, you shoot things at each other. I guess you can't see your own health bar, but there are actually health bars, and they have some pseudo chiclets, but they kind of suck. And I wanted them to be better, so that is where we're going to use them. And every other game that people make that need chiclets. Let's try this one. Waiting for the lobby. Alright. Let's see what else we can do. Back to my list of things to do. Fall damage. Sure, that's easy. We'll even get to zip lines. Fall damage is real easy. Pick a new map. So core just has no fall damage at all. If I fly way up here, and I use shift equals to spawn at my camera position, fall for a while, the ground, great, nothing. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is get a health bar in here so you can actually see our health as we do this. Then I'm going to make a slightly more interesting map. Let's get a different sky. I'm feeling tired of the sky, despite my programming habits. Cape Canaveral, that seems better. Oop, delete the other one. Problem is I don't have a terrain hiding this gray bottom half of the skybox. Nope, not you. Yes, no, that sucks. Alright, we're getting fancy. Generate new terrain, background mountains, pow. Take this guy, actually let's just take everything else. Everything else, including the locked floor. Well, that's a bug. Didn't give me my widget back. One of these things doesn't have position. Okay. Alright, now we've got mountains. And a nice sky. Looks so cozy. Delete our floor. Terrain material. Let's get grass cliffs. Perfect. Oh, I fixed that bug. Alright, now we need some things to climb on. Maybe a teleporter. Let's use a teleporter. That'll be a lot quicker. Or quicker than other things. This is another component I made. And stairs, like a lot of stairs. Duplicates. This is like a 200 snap. Maybe that's the right size. Why did the artist set these up too high? Looks correct-ish, right? It's kind of awkward looking with the two banisters next to each other, but you'll be able to run up it. Let's try. You can jump off the edge. Yep, alright, great. I'm just going to make like 20 of these, so it goes way up and then put a teleporter that takes you all the way to the top instantly. That's probably enough. How much foliage do we really need? Alright, so the teleporter has a target. You could use really anything. I'm going to make a group, like the most lightweight object. And it has a position. It's not visible, but whatever. Oh, it's gone. Gone out of existence. I slide it down one and ran them into each other. You may be correct. I feel like I need a smaller snap size for that to be true. I think you're probably correct if I do like this. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably a configuration for this. The artist spent a lot of time on these pieces to make them look good. But for now, where did my group go? Hard to tell where it is in 3D space when it has no representation. Whatever, it's kind of near the top of the stairs. Teleporter, we'll make that the target. You'll go exactly there. Oh, it's got default effects. Cool. Where is my teleporter? Way underground, of course it is. Who did this? The short answer is that I did. Apparently I spent time making artwork. Put it slightly off center. Over here. Get our... Oh, the sky is in the way, I see. That stuff doesn't need to be here. Send that off into the third realm. I pressed the reset position, so it went way down into the world. Alright. So now I can spawn, and my... Oof. We're gonna turn this guy off. I can look around. Stairs, or I touch this, and pew, at the top of the stairs. Alright. Spawn point, rotate. So what we want to do is make a thing that makes people take fall damage when they fall. Very simple. It's a new group. Fall damage. And it's probably just going to be a single script. So damage is all server controlled. Clients can't damage themselves, so we don't need that. You might want a sound to play, actually. So maybe we do need a client thing. That seems like a thing you'd probably want to kind of, if we had one. Audio damage. That can't be right. I refuse to believe hit. Impact hit. Landing, maybe? We have like so much audio, but I don't know audio words, so when I try to search for things, I often just type the wrong words. Snowboard landings. Interesting. Impact. Ah, perfect. Bullet impact sounds. Car crash. Okay, we'll just try one of these for now. Make a client context. So we have client stuff. I did it in the wrong order. Should be inside of itself. All right, and then we need two scripts. Fall damage server, fall damage client. Client one's just going to play the sound. There's sort of an open question of, and I'll make an option on here. Basically, do you want to be able to hear other people's fall damage sounds? Usually true, but not always. Min or maximum safe height is one field that I'd want. That's not a boolean. Maximum safe height. Damage scale. Hear other players. Impacts. Landing sounds. Sure. Default on. Maximum safe height. So these are centimeters. It's a video game, so you can fall 10 meters. That's crazy. You'd break your legs, but it's a video game. And I will put a tooltip on damage scale to explain how this works. That's probably the interface that makes sense to me of how this would be kind of intuitive to someone. You could have like a, depending on the game, you could have like a lethal height, and it looks at their maximum health. In fact, fall damage is often percent based, right? It's not like a flat number. Maybe that's how I should do this. Lethal height. And if they really want to go in and say the player who has twice as much health can fall farther, which you could reasonably do. It's not very hard to change this in a very complex script. All right, so lethal height is going to be 20 meters, 30 meters. I don't know how tall this is. Where is our group? Our group is at 100 meters, just for reference here. So even though 10 meters would kill you or really hurt you in real life, that's still, you know, you're going to take damage from here and die from here with it how I've said right now. All right, so the client script needs a reference to the sound. That's it. And the way I'm going to set this up is I'm going to send an event from the server to the client to tell people to play the sound. And I'm just going to send it only to one player or send it to every player, whether or not they have this checked. So this client script doesn't care about any of these settings at all. And the server script, nope, got this backwards. The server script needs reference to this so we can get all the properties. And that's it. You might want the sound to differ based on how hard you hit the ground. And if it dies, it makes a different sound. You might want the sound to be louder if you fall further. I know in previous games I've worked on or seen they have that kind of thing. We don't need that. It's too advanced. Sound kind of sucks anyway for this. Of course, our audio guy's going to tell me I'm using totally the wrong sound and have something perfect for this, as he tends to do. So let's load these up, see what we can do about this. 1 second. All right. So one of these is a lot easier than the other one. The client script displays a sound. We'll do that one first. So we're going to use a custom event. We're going to call it fall damage. Very straightforward. Fall damage. What did I call that on here? Landing sound or the player's damage sound, I think is the right way to, whoops, for this. It's got to be a quicker, more concise name for that. Damage sound SFX is usually the term. Sound FX versus visual effects. And I should change that to sound or damage SFX. Is that what I call it? Yeah. Okay. Client. Play. Play does what you think. Plays the sound. Great. The custom events have a different interface for connecting slightly. So it has no parameters. It's based on a string. One thing we should look at is, does this have radius fall off fields that make sense. It's not auto-playing. You don't just hear the sound as soon as the game starts, wherever this thing is sitting. It should not. Let's see. We kind of, if you want it to be, to like hear other players' things, you want it to be spatial, like positioned on the player, right? And this is not how that currently works. In fact, we should rearrange this logic a little bit. We should make it a template. Because you want multiple players to fall at the same time and hear different sounds, like overlapping. So you can't just have one that gets played. So helper damage sound, or fall damage sound, let's call it. And now this guy gets a reference to that. Fall damage sound. Cut this guy off. There's two common ways to play sounds. One is to have them statically in the hierarchy and call play on them, and the other one is to make templates and spawn them. And when you do that, you usually have them, I will show you in a second. Position equals, so this now needs a parameter, because it needs to know who is taking damage, so it knows where to spawn it. Alright, so we spawn the thing at the player's position. It's going to be in the middle of their, the middle of their body is a vague description of where it is. We actually did a kind of investigation on this to figure out exactly where these things are to be able to diagram to people, and it's like right in their crotch. It's really amazing. Anyway, all right. So now for this template, we want it spatialized. That means you can hear where it is, here left, right. When attenuated, if you're far away, it's quiet. We don't want it occluded. Sometimes you want this for things that are short distance, and especially ones that are spawned inside of players. You don't want it to have some funny, sometimes a low pass or it's quieter just because there's something in the way, which is often the player themselves or something. We want to have autoplay, means it plays immediately when it spawns, and transient means it destroys itself when it's finished playing. I might want it a little bit louder. Try different pitches. Actually, this makes it use these things. Or breaks it entirely. Perfect. Alright, well, I'll just reset that and not worry about it. Make it a little bit louder. So radius is how far away you hear the maximum volume. 4 meters, okay. False is how far beyond that you hear it at all. And at the maximum distance of these two add together, so 40 meters, you just barely hear basically nothing at all. And it gets louder and louder as you get closer. It doesn't fade in or out, doesn't delay itself. That should be everything we need. We will test this later, though. It's hard to test multiplayer sounds because you only get sound from the one window you're looking at, especially if you have like a getting shot sound or something like that. In this case, I will jump off the tower, then switch clients and hear the person land next to me and die. All right. So the other script is the kicker here. So it's got one property, stick up there, and then this has 3 properties. Stick those next. All right, we're gonna call this template root because this is a, let's rename this actually. This is a pattern used for all the components. And then down here, maximum safe height, lethal height. There's gotta be a better name for this. Hear other players' damage sounds. This is the hardest part of programming. I'll leave it for now. Worry about it later. Same as the other one. You think of names, you ask people, and things come up. Alright, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to watch each player's velocity, and when it very suddenly changes, then we're going to assume that they should take fall damage. There are a couple ways we could do this. We could look for, there's a field on the player called is grounded. Player dot is grounded. That tells you if they're on the ground with no upward velocity. This is kind of an Unreal movement concept, and Unreal movement has a lot of gotchas in some regard. If you're in a very special mode when you're standing on the ground where you don't obey gravity and some other things like that. In this case, if you fall a long distance and then hit the side of something, it won't ever trigger. So you wouldn't take fall damage. That feels kind of weird, especially if you lose most of your velocity or you hit. Maybe we should try that, because maybe if you hit water, you shouldn't take damage. That's a pretty common way to lose a lot of speed. Let's experiment a little bit. So this is a server script, so that's to deal with every player. Grounded states. Previous grounded states. So that is a table. We're going to use the players as the keys, and then just check for changing. If someone wasn't grounded and previously wasn't grounded and now is, we're going to I just realized something. Then we're going to apply damage if they fell far enough. We're going to apply it based on their velocity, I think, to see how fast they were going when they hit the ground, which means that these fields right here are going to be kind of hard to set that way. What if your game does something very strange where you jump off a thing and then you kind of float down, or you go up and then down again? So instead of calling these I'm just going to rename this entirely. Minimum safe speed and lethal speed. All right. So now these are centimeters per second. 10 meters per second. These actually seem like reasonable numbers still. 10 meters per second means you fell in real life, means you fell for a second, right? Earth's gravity is about 10 meters a second, and in that time you fell 5 meters. So maybe I need to make this a little bit higher. And this one's probably still the same because it's quadratic. So if you are going 30 meters a second, that means you've fallen for 3 seconds, and in 3 seconds you would have fallen 45 meters. So that's actually pretty high. All right, so we'll grab these. Clobber, let's compare what I did. Full speed. Okay, the last thing's all the same. I'm just going to delete that. Minimum safe speed. That should be maximum. Whoops. I don't know why I changed it to min. Keyboard, please. Speed. Minimum safe speed is 0, turns out. Alright. So, local previous speeds. Player to float. Alright. Function tick. We're going to iterate through every player. And look at their stuff. Basically say local is grounded equals player dot is grounded. Local speed equals player dot get velocity dot size. The speed is a scalar quantity. It's the how fast, or the velocity is the vector quantity. If we don't have one of these set, we're assuming the player just joined and we're not going to do damage or anything, because that doesn't make sense. And if we don't actually care about their speed when they hit the ground, because presumably it's more gotchas here. Presumably it's been zeroed out. So if you're moving horizontally real fast, right? You get catapulted kind of at a trajectory, like real far to the side, but just a little bit up. When you hit the ground, you'd have a very high speed, but you shouldn't take that much fall damage. Most games kind of ignore your horizontal component. So previous vertical speeds is what we're going to call this. And we'll add some tooltips on these to make it clear that that's what this is. And speed, instead of being dot size, dot z. And we're actually going to do a math dot min or max min. All right, so we don't care if you're moving up. If hit the ground when you're moving up, you've done something strange, and you probably shouldn't take fall damage. So Z is the, if I grab my widget here, let's grab the player start. Red is X positive, green is Y positive, blue is Z positive, and you look down X. So we care that you have a negative Z velocity. That's the direction that you're slamming into the ground. So we take the Z velocity. Actually let's invert it right there. So we take the opposite of it. So if you have a positive number, and then we max it with 0. So if you have a positive number, you get this. If you don't, you get 0. This is how far your falling speed. Let's even narrow that down further to say this is you going down, not up. Okay. If is, how do I want to deal with the case where you don't have, I can do this a different way. All right, we're gonna function player joined, player function player out. I'm gonna be clean about this. So the tick should never hit a player that's not called one of these. Previous falling speeds player equals 0. If you just joined, you're not falling. Ground states player equals true. So the spawn point is usually not on the ground. This is usually false, but it doesn't matter because we only care about the transition from falling to grounded, not the other way around. So this is safe handling either way, that it doesn't trigger something by accident. And down here, we're going to clear these out. If you set a field in a table to nil, it removes it from the table entirely. So now we know that they're always in there. If is grounded and not previous grounded states player. So this means you hit the ground, right? You are now on the ground and you were not previously on the ground. Then we look at your previous falling speed because that's the one that matters. If less than, or we only care if your speed is greater than the maximum safe speed. That means you're taking damage, right? So how much damage are you taking? Well, it depends on your max hit points. You're taking 0 if you're exactly this number, which is why it's greater than rather than greater than equals. You're taking all of it if you're this number. So we're going to do a little bit of math and get the number we need out of this. All right, so take that guy and subtract this guy. That's how much over the maximum safe speed you're going. Divide by this guy. That's this guy. We need some parentheses. This is how much you're going over the maximum speed. This is the whole speed range. One way to look at this is it's a linear scale. If you're going exactly the speed, then this is 0, and that comes out. This whole quantity comes out to 0. If you're going the lethal speed, then this is, or you were going this lethal speed, and now this whole thing is 1. If you're going faster than it, it's more than 1. So this is what percentage of your maximum health you need to take. We're going to call this t, as in a parameter for a parameterized function. There's got to be a way to pronounce that word. Then player apply. I might be able to fit this all in one line. It might be unwieldy. Actually, no, I can't because I need to give the damage a reason. Environment damage. Damage.new. And I don't think damage.new takes any other parameters. I think you have to do it manually. Yes. So I'm going to make a damage with damage.new. Then I'm going to set it to reason to map, I believe is what I want here. And there's no ability that did anything. Okay. And I'm really washed out when I have a white screen. Alright. So we want to take t times player.max health hit points. And we want to clamp t. So we know that t can't be less than 0, right? Because if this wasn't at least as much as this, then this wouldn't even get in here. And we're gonna add some checks after this that show that these are in the right ratio, right? That this is actually a number. There's an argument that we want to support the case where these are the same number, where the player just says, a game it says, if you fall 10 meters, you're dead. If you fall 9 meters, you take nothing, in which case this is going to be divided by 0 and be a problem. We will check for that and worry about it later, figure it out. So we take math.min, that, and 1.0. You could argue that we should just apply a million damage if you fall really far, but that probably would break things. And we're basically saying, let's not do more than one times your maximum hit points to you. We need to start this with a variable, damage equals. One of the things I should add to my list. Utility library. Yeah, we're totally doing this. That's gonna be great. I've run into a bunch of recurring things that I use a lot, and I'm like, I should just make a library for all these. And I'm gonna do it in a way that's useful to me, I think. I'm dragging in all my maps. Alright, so that's our damage. We need to, whoops, in the shortcut, give it a reason. I think this is damage reason. Map? Is that what that said? Rumph. Does not match our styling very well. The variable name and this should be the same. Maybe this is alright. Alright, and then you apply the damage to the player. Alright. So this is most of our logic. The last thing we want to do, we want to update these fields because they, otherwise we don't actually know what the last frame was. So we're going to do that, and the previous is grounded, is the new one, and the new one. I should probably be consistent about these being in the right order. So the following speech before is grounded, or the same order. The other thing we have to do, this isn't going to play any sounds, right? It didn't send any events. So then in here, if hear other players' damage sounds, then events.broadcast to all players fall damage and player, right? That's what it's looking for. Just a player and it's called fall damage, yep. Else and cast to one player. It's kind of redundant in this case. We could give it a different name and have special logic to be a little more efficient. Doesn't matter. In fact, if I were to make it a very large game and trying to be super efficient about it, I would do some things that were kind of try to minimize network traffic in a lot of ways. The actual event name gets transmitted, so it's a little bit of a you want to minimize on that. All right. So let us see. This should work, but then again, how these things work? It doesn't. All right. Fall damage client 8. That's first. That's because I wrote connects instead of connect. And interesting. I guess it looked to the next line to see if I try to complete that. Attempt to compare number was nil on 26 on the server. Really? Maximum safe speed. Which one of these is nil? Because I'm wondering if I need to actually... Rip. Alright, so this didn't actually work. Looks like tick hit before player joined. We can verify that. And then complain at work tomorrow. And by at work tomorrow, I mean on the internet. Oh, ha! That's not a bug. That's my bug. I didn't connect these functions. They're never getting called. Game player joined. Event connect on player joined. Game player left. Event connect on player left. All right. Game is a namespace of a couple of useful functions for your game in general, not tied to any specific objects. Player join, player left. Ability spawn, this isn't used anymore, but it used to do something. Round start, round end. And then some things about finding players, chaining team scores. Or some of that. Alright, so now we're actually doing that. Hey, no errors. Alright, great. Let's get a print statement out of here. which this presumably will kill me. Ooh, that was better than expected. And I will not respawn because this game doesn't have a respawn point. Respawn settings, rather. So I previously went through this menu. I will show you this a menu at the bottom down here that has all the things you want to. Just do that. In place, closest spawn point, 1 second. Sure. So I jump off the tower. Throw my arm here. Let her a little bit. Make a sound? Kind of hard to tell. Yeah, it did. Alright. Cool. A little higher, this is probably gonna kill me, because it's at their jump. Cool. Alright, we got fall damage. I want to test a handful of things. I want to test multiplayer. I want to, let me write this down. Fall damage to you. Test multiplayer, test broadcast to all feature, test landing on edges, slanted things, test landing in water. That's just not what I typed. Add tooltips, add parameter checks. That's, nope, we'll worry about that later. Okay. So, first thing, multiplayer. Every piece of logic I write, I test multiplayer, because if I don't, it doesn't work. There's always catches and just different. It works slightly differently. There's something you don't expect. Let's make you smaller. That was odd. Not too far. Alright, so the top up there. We're jumping land right next to the other person. Hurt him. Great. And it actually worked. We died. No script errors that I see. We're going to turn that off. Not make the default landing noise. Oh, you mean there's a jump landing noise. I see what you're saying. Currently, we cannot do that actually. That is a feature we've talked about. I don't know when it's on the schedule, but it's definitely, we want to add support where you can customize the default sounds, right? You could control, maybe you want a game where you have a stealth mode and you don't make footstep sounds, like that, something that we very much want to be able to control, or you want to make some very strange looking material and want to make your own footstep sounds, or all sorts of things you want to do that we don't currently have support for, but definitely on the roadmap. I agree with that. It would make the sound better. All right, so I turned off things, so presumably when I jump I shouldn't hear the other person. So that was the landing sound, not the splat sound. You're right, that's kind of awkward. Not much we can do about that currently, but it will get better in the future. Alright, what else was on our to-do list? Test landing in edges, slanted things, and water. Well, we have to add those to the map for that to work. Water. Basic volume something? I don't know the material. Where's this thing? Boy. Swimming physics volume. Okay, great. That's about the right size. And then let's actually make some visuals so we know, aha, I'm gonna use the terrain editing tools. This is gonna be great. Terrain sculpt. Let's shrink you down a little bit. Surface, no, I want shape. This is madness. I haven't used these in a long time. Wow, that was very effective. This is not really where my cursor is. I wonder what it's doing. Oh, I guess the volume's in the way. Let's hide you, maybe? Let's go over here. Maybe I found a bug. Who knows? Yeah, that's this is a really funny bug. I like this a lot, actually. So the problem is, the swimming physics volume is upside down because you generally care where the surface of the water is, not where the bottom is, right? Like a lot of triggers or things are ground up or middle out. This water volume has the top as its anchor point because you put the surface somewhere, then you just fill the underneath. And something about that is breaking the sculpting tool, making it go the wrong direction. That is way too strong. Zero probably does nothing. Let's try a little bit more than that. It's a little puddle. Alright, get our swimming physics volume, put it over here. We got a swimming pool. Great. Bigger in these axes. Let's pull it back a little bit so we can see where it is. And then plane. So we're putting it right there so it's like the same height, right? Make the surface of the water. I don't know if the physics volume actually does the post-process and making it look like you're underwater. We'll find out in a minute. That was a separate piece at some point. Or I guess yeah, it was a different piece. I don't know how it is now. Okay. So this guy has no collision, and we need a water material. Faucet water, faceted water, generic water. Generic water it is. Huzzah. Alright. So now if I go over here, can swim from my camera underwater. Yeah, it doesn't look good at all. That's fine. And if I teleport and land in the water, hopefully it doesn't kill me. Great. Try to land near the edge of the water, see if it can kill me there. I don't know how I want this to work, but did not kill me. Try one more time, a little closer. Okay, so that actually killed me because I think I landed water shallow enough that my feet touched the bottom. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, touching the bottom is very close to this part right there. Let's try to land there. Yep, alright, that seems fine. If you land in water shallow enough that you'd stand, then you crash, otherwise you'd take no damage at all, as is video game physics. Similar to landing on ladders and that sort of thing. Slanted surfaces. So we're going to take a big cube. Everyone's favorite primitive. Get it over here. Make it real big in 2 dimensions and rotate it. See what this does. I suspect what will happen is I'll hit the cube, I'll slide down it, and I'll take damage when I hit the bottom. Yep, and I didn't take that much damage, I slid for a little bit. That actually feels about correct. Oof. Right, let me see if I can slow myself down enough to not take damage. I should jump in the middle. Ha! In true video game fashion, I've bugged it out to a point where I didn't take damage because I landed in a funny angle. That's probably fine. Lots of video games do this. Yeah, okay. That seems reasonable. And add tooltips and parameter checks. Okay. Let's do tooltips first. Easy peasy. Maximum speed. Second. That a player can hit their falling speed. And not take damage. Falling speed at which collision with the ground kills a player. Seems pretty self-explanatory. one, here's default damage sound, or just the victim. Alright. And then parameter checking. So this is a boolean, there's no wrong value to a boolean, both are valid. Maximum safe speed should be greater than 0, otherwise this makes no sense. Lethal speed should be greater than maximum safe speed, or greater than or equal to. I'm going to look at, let me grab another, what did I put in your teleporter? Another script to see how I just template this like that. Okay. Just going to grab these guys right here. Goes in here. I should probably add some of this. These are exposed properties. Internal custom properties. Copyright notice. It's not 2019 anymore. Let's put that over here too. Ooh, I missed one. We're making an official template. Look at this. We want variables. Go down here. I will need template function things as well. Do that in a minute. And then way down at the bottom, there should be comment that says initialize. Okay. So these should say if maximum safe speed is less than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 0, maximum safe speed must be positive. Alright, and we're going to set it to the default value if you do that. If you put in some nonsense number rather than making it 0 or something, we're going to make it 1500. And lethal speed is less than maximum safe speed. Then lethal speed must be at least maximum. I need to name this the same as the variable on the thing. And if it's not, you get the same number. Okay. You could make it the default as well. That feels kind of weird if they set maximum safe speed to 10,000. You don't want it to, like, you need to make sure it's actually a valid thing. If they're making a crazy game. Okay, so the one, I have a few more things to do here, right? Where's my to-do? Get all that. Handle lethal equals max case, because right now it's divided by 0. Add function comments. All right. So one way to do this is here. Should work. So we just assume that you're taking your entire health bar and damage, and then say, hey, are we actually in the case where we need to figure out the value in between? If so, do what we did before. So if they're the same value, this just says t equals 1, falls through the same logic and kills you. Great. That seems fine to me. We should test that, of course. So let's say we set our lethal speed to 12. Let's do something crazy. Let's set nonsense values and see what it does. Unexpected symbol near that. That's not what I wanted. 57. That. I hit the funny red button. It's a funny warning. I'm not going to leave it, but if you mess up both of these like I did, you'll get this warning even though when you look at your actual properties, it is greater than that one, but it's because it set this one to another number. That's fine. So because of that, I should just die with all the right height. Okay. And the height's not even that high. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of this plane so I can... I need to fall about here, and I should just die, maybe? Yep, okay. Perfect. Okay. Let's set those values back to reasonable things. Just 3,000 before. Okay. Maybe I think it still looks very long. Maybe I should give an equation to figure out what reasonable numbers should be. There's a little bit of a catch here that Unreal has a maximum ball velocity for players. So it's not just plain acceleration. At some point you stop accelerating. So if I put a large enough number here, you'll just never die to it. Or never kill you unless you're already injured. Alright, so the last thing I want to do, you'll notice in these, there's a comment on every, well, on the one function, there's a comment that shows you the signature of the function and then it tells you what it does. And there's a little bit, sometimes more comments inside to be a little verbose. That is the thing I did with all the components to make it very easy for new people, especially people who are picking up Fluid, to understand what this does. How did I write that? Alright, return value, returns nothing. Fall damage, player is the type, it's capital P. It matches the heading in here, all these things. And there's a, if you use the type property, or is a function, that's what you'll get, exactly that string. The Lua has a couple of built-in types, those ones are lowercase, but these are not. Alright, so, handles a player damage event and plays the corresponding sound. Sure, okay. And here, we're going to do the same thing for these three functions. Player joined, player sets up data for a new player. Player cleans up data for a player that left. Checks for any players that hit the ground since last frame, and applies damage if appropriate. I should preferences. Let me look this up. One of the things I like doing in Sublime is having a line that tells you a certain character line. Sublime character column, maybe? I don't remember how I have this set up. Actually, I can just. I've got a rulers. Sweet. Okay. For one of the standards I have for this exact experience. I'm just going to copy my Sublime thing from a work machine. That seems a lot simpler. Color scheme. Default match enabled. Yeah. All right. Lots of settings. Great. I've got a line. Perfect. This tells me if I am going making lines that are too long. You notice that the copyright notice lines up exactly with that. There's 120 characters. It's kind of a middle ground between crazy people who think that 80 characters should be the limit and modern monitors that can display hundreds and hundreds of characters. Ah, that's interesting. I pasted things that had spaces instead of tabs. That's one of the things about my configuration. Applies damage appropriate and sends events force SFX. I'll just leave it events. I'll add run the countdown here. Did this player? Like I said, there's definitely a goal with these things to be very intuitive and straightforward and make it so that a new user can open this up and actually try to understand it. I admit some of these have a lot of text and a lot of stuff going on, but I'm trying a little bit. Let's come up here. Okay. There's an argument that I should just spawn a networked sound instead of setting an event, there's sort of a trade-off there of like you have to send some network data either way. Sounds should almost always be in the client, but if I'm just sending an event anyway to do it, it's kind of the same thing. That being said, actual objects have a lot of properties that are sent over the network when you spawn one that is much simpler. Like in this case, all I do is send the player, and that's like a single ID, and it figures, the client says, oh, I know where that player is, I know all this data about it already. If I were to spawn an object, the spawned object would have to send over the network what kind of object it is, where it is, what its rotation is, what its scale is, all the stuff that it doesn't need. So this is cheaper, but you could see it going either way. Sometimes there are arguments in certain cases. All right. Update data for next frame. Okay, great. We have now made a fall damage component. And wait a couple weeks, and that'll be down here. Sweet. All right. People still with me? Let's knock two of those out of here. People watching. This is amazing. All right. I'm gonna take a little bit of time and try to see what I can do with the zipline. I don't think I'm gonna get very far into that because it's kind of an experimental thing. Basically, what can I work with? How will it feel? Can I do things that are not in a very straight line? Like a very taut zipline kind of looks a little ridiculous. And then I will do another half hour or so. All right, so let me first let's make a new map. New map for everything. Start project zip lines. All right. Well, we're gonna mix it up this time. We're gonna make the floor enormous, and maybe give it some grass texture. Oop. And change out the sky. It's very dark. Paradise Planet. Sci-fi. What's sci-fi? Ooh, that is very dark. That is too dark. Whimsical sunny saturation. Sure, alright. So the sky is a template and it actually has a bunch of pieces in it. You can do all sorts of things with it. There's ambient occlusion on this one. That's nuts. I can take the sky dome, for example, and rotate it around. This actually is a pet peeve of mine. I'll leave it like that. That looks ridiculous. I wanted to make a map when I first joined the game, core, Anticore, wherever I work, and have the sky upside down and just make it like I've had this nightmare before. It's like a terrifying dream where the whole world's upside down and you're just afraid of falling into the sky, into the endless abyss. But the skies kind of fundamentally have this like down is different than up. Like if I hide the ground, you'll see that as I rotate it. Nope. I dome. That down is still gray, and no matter what I do to it. But that will come someday, and is definitely not high priority at all. All right. So for now, we've got a place to be. Okay. Man, I gotta stop doing that. These widgets block your feet. Well, stick you down there. Okay. That changed the look of the sky? Did we just see that? Got darker? What is this? Oh man, alright, I gotta write these down. Bugs. Bugs. Whimsical sky. Darker. We're gonna drag it up into the sky. Okay. What other bugs did I have before? I saw like two of them I wanted to do something about. Well, it's gone forever. I don't know. We want a hill? Yeah, our one hill. This was before we had terrain. Still useful. Give it the same grass texture. No, that's not what I wanted. Grass basic. And make it really huge. Actually, I'm going to scale it. Thank you, Sin. That is exactly one of the bugs that's important. Alright. Where's our player spawn? There it is. So we want a thing to zip line to this way up in the air, basically. And we're going to disable distance field lighting. Distance field lighting is some fancy graphics technique that I actually don't like. I don't know how it works, but I also just don't understand graphics that well. I haven't dug into it, but I know that when you scale things very large, it tends to look terrible. Francis isn't casting a shadow. That's all right. Whatever. We got a hill. Terrain plus water. All right. And a zip line for now. Cylinder. For what it's worth, I'm thinking of the zip line from Apex, for example, and it's just a thing that you grab and you shoot along it either way. We could make it so you can only go down. We could make it so you accelerate as you go down. Some of those are harder than others, but for now I'm just going to say, let's see what we can do with it. So we're going to take a cylinder, make it really long. I'm going to make it really skinny, but that's kind of hard to do with the widgets unless you like zoom way in. Give it a, is there like a cable texture? There's got to be something here. Grapple. There's an idea. Let's add that to the list. Grapple. I did see one in community content. I haven't actually played with it. Material metal? I need like a texture on it. Diamond plates. Let's see what that looks like. No, it doesn't look like a cable. Okay. Nope, not that one either. This is the kind of thing that an artist would look at and just immediately make something that looks good. Roof metal. We have a giant metal bamboo stick. You know what? Steel brushed. Sure. Okay. Can I rotate the material? Don't love that. I believe I can make a custom material based on this. Add a custom material. Can I rotate in here? We are modifying smart standard. I swear there was a... Okay, we can't rotate it. What I'm going to do... I believe this only rotates in increments of 90. Yeah, okay. I need these to be smaller, I get it. Alright, this isn't working. Or rather, it doesn't look enough better to justify using a custom material. Let's use the default one. So use smart material, whatever. Okay. Zoom out, rotate some more. Move it around. How close is that to the spawn point? Not very. I think kind of close, but. So if you hit T, you can change world space and local space on your manipulator. So this button up here somewhere, this guy. Nope, not you. I need to make this longer. Doesn't really matter if it goes into the ground. Oh, this just goes right through the hill. It's harder than it looks, or maybe not. Whatever. Okay, we have a zip line. It's sort of a question of how do I make this. Let's see. We want a trigger that goes in exactly the same spot, which is kind of ugly to have them both be independent things. Gameplay object, trigger. Generally, when I'm working on trying to make components, I try to make pieces of things that people would find useful. And if I get to a point where I'm like, I can make this, but it's kind of hacky or kind of uses things that, you know, maybe if you put it in certain game modes, it might not work. I say, okay, that's cool, but I'm not going to share it as one of the things that shows up in here, and everyone assumes will work in lots of different games. And instead, I just share it in community content, like my spaceship that I made yesterday. This one. Or this one. They're very different spaceships, actually. Despite looking the same, they fly very differently. This one obeys physics, and this one is very gamey. It goes forward, and when you turn, it turns, rapidly. All right, so this guy may end up in that category. I'm going to take the position of the cylinder, and the rotation of the cylinder, and the scale of the cylinder, and hopefully my trigger ends up looking exactly the same. Yeah, okay. Then I want to make it bigger, right? You want to be able to grab it from outside. In fact, maybe even bigger than that. Let us make it interactable. Ride zipline. See how close I have to be. Well, that seems about right. The interactable, not you. Oh, interesting. The interactable trigger actually, it checks collision against the thing in front of you. So if you look at it, like you see where I'm standing here, but if I turn around, suddenly it doesn't give me the trigger. I have to go really close to back into it, which kind of makes sense if you have a switch or something, you put the trigger right on it. All right, for one thing, this shouldn't actually have collision on it, right? If I'm going to zip line on it, I want to hang underneath it and probably going to collide with it a little bit. And you want that to be the only way to interact with that. So we turn off collision. Easy. Then, all right, so I'm going to do a trick I did with another thing recently. First, I'm going to put these in a group. Let's make a script zipline server. Trigger. Basically all I need. The visual representation is just there to, presumably I put some properties on this too, but it's just there to show you what you're doing. This trigger is the thing that actually controls it. All right. Zipline and trigger. What I'm going to do is find the thing I made recently and copy a bit over and then explain what I did. Give me a second here. My other computer. Due to the recent apocalypse, we were working from home, so my work computer is sitting here next to me. That's taking a while. All right, we'll come back to this and worry about it for later. In fact, I think I know it's wrong. So Synasts, when you have an object like that, you have to use the arrows. You cannot grab an end with the mouse move it. That is correct. You can, when you select an object, you get these widgets. If I try to grab anywhere else, I'm not actually doing anything. I'm just selecting. So this is the movement widget. It's this one right here. It's W. These are the 3 axes, and these are 3 planes. You want to move along 2 axes at once. You hit E to get rotation, and R to get scale. Certain things you can only scale all the axes at once. Certain things you can scale one at a time, depending on what their children parents are. Basically, if it has renderable children, you have to scale all the axes together because of a fundamental limitation in the Unreal Engine that you cannot skew objects. And in each of those modes, you can switch from world space to local space, which isn't working at all right now. I guess it's the same for this guy. It kind of does things. Okay. So what I want to do with the script is I want to get this trigger and figure out which axis is the longest of it. And I want to know, I don't care how big it is. I want a vector in the direction of the longest axis, so I can tell if the player, basically when you grab a zipline, you want to go the direction you're facing. So if I am in the hemisphere facing towards this end, I want to go this way. If I'm in the hemisphere facing this end, I want to go this way. And one way to do this is to say the trigger has to be aligned exactly this way. It always has to be the z-axis, for example, in this case, which probably be fine. Another way is to actually compare the 3 axes and say which one's the longest, look at a vector. Let's just use the z-axis in this case. So function on interacted trigger player trigger interacted event. This is what you get when you interact with the thing, and the begin and end overlap functions trigger get give you a trigger and an other, because other objects, balls and cubes and whatever nonsense in your game can overlap with triggers. Other objects cannot use triggers. They do not have an F button on their keyboard. They do not have a keyboard. So interactive event is always a player, which makes this a little simpler. So hey, player press the button. We need to figure out which way they're facing and try to send them that way. So forward equals player get world rotation. A few ways to get a forward vector for a player. One way is to take the rotation and multiply it by a predefined vector. When you multiply rotation by a vector, it rotates the vector by that amount. Forward is a predefined vector, that is 1 unit forward and 0 units sideways or up. I believe right and up are the other two vectors you can get this way. Another way to do this is to, our quaternion type, which is another way to represent rotation, has a get forward vector function, but I think this is simpler. It's a little less typing. All right, so we want to know which way we're facing. If forward dot, actually we should find another constant up here. Zipline forward. Get world rotation, same deal. So the forward vector, actually no, in this case, we're going to do up, because that is z. This is going to be forward, right, up, x, y, z, from the point of view of looking this way, which is how our cylinder is aligned. So we want the up vector from this guy. It's kind of funny to take up and call it forward, whatever. It'll do what we want. So we're going to take the players forward. Actually, let's call this player forward so it's clear, because we have two forward vectors. And dot it was the line forward. This is our definition for the dot product. You probably remember from high school math, maybe not. I would prefer that was a separate function, whatever. The dot operator is one of the built-in Lua operators. It's used for string concatenation. In this case, dot product tells you if things are facing the same direction. It takes two vectors and gives you a scalar that is the magnitude of the two multiplied together times the cosine of the angle between them. In this case, we don't care about the magnitude at all. We just care if the cosine is positive. If the cosine is positive, they're pointing in the same direction. If it's negative, they're pointing in the opposite direction. Whoops. All right. So if it's facing the same direction, then the player suddenly, we need to rocket them along in the zipline forward direction and do a bunch of other things to them. So player.gravity scale, we're going to start with the hacky approach and see how this turns out. Player.movement control mode equals I believe this will stop you from using WASD to move, or try to move even. You want to be stuck to the zipline the whole way, so you want to remove the player's ability to do any of that. At the same time, you want them to be able to jump. That's the way to get off the zipline, right? In fact, they should probably be able to press F as well to get off, but maybe not. Maybe we'll just leave it to jumping. Yeah, basically as soon as they jump, we're going to kick them off, and it will solve itself because it's an interactive trigger, so if they want to get back on, they have to press F again. If they don't press F again, they just fall. Okay, so if you press this button, your gravity is set to 0, your movement control mode is set to that. Player.set velocity. We're going to see if this works. We're going to take the zipline forward times, let's just find a function up here. Line speed. How fast do you go? 10 meters a second? Sure, why not? We'll see how this feels. All right. I'm going to move these out of the if statement because that is the thing you do no matter what. This is the which direction do we face. So down here instead we send them the other direction. We're not going to change their facing at all. We're going to let them move their mouse around and do what they want with it. We're just going to send them one way or the other. And then what else do we want to do? function unbinding pressed. Player binding. So we want to know that they press the jump button, and I don't know that there's a way to do that currently, to tell if they're jumping versus just they check for the same button. Let's see what things we can do. Jump. Max jump count, jump velocity is jumping. Hey, that's way better. Let's not do this at all. Because then, if someone changes their bindings, we don't want this to break. We will instead function tick delta time and make a comment so we know what to do with that in a second. All right. Player local ziplining players. Use a normal array. We don't need any data about them. So table.insert. You press the button, you're ziplining, you go to the table, you get your velocity set, great. All right, so now on tick, we're going to iterate through all the players that are ziplining and say, hey, if they're jumping, let's stop them. This actually, there is another case, right? What happens when you hit the end of the zip line? You shouldn't just keep going forever. That seems important. So we'll check that in a minute. Then end. All right, so I'm going to make another function called end zipline. Start zipline. We're going to make this. Where's this symmetrical is what I'm looking for. And zipline player. So all of this stuff we're going to put in start zipline. For now, that's not going to do it. I guess you could call a script function that forces someone onto a zipline. And this is going to end zipline, and we're also going to check if they exit the trigger volume somehow. Function on end overlap. Overlap ended. What is that function? On end overlap. Yep. If other is a player, and zipline other. Okay. And that is before interactive event, so I should order this differently. Whoops, not you. Okay. So now these things both want to end your ziplining. What does that mean? Well, I gotta do the opposite of these things first of all. This is the part where this should be a little more consistent, but I'm just gonna, for now, do the cheap approach. Default gravity scale, 1.9 apparently. That's madness. Why would you do that? I don't know. Move control mode, look relative, okay. So if you were to change your game and change these things, this would break because it would put you back in the other mode. We'd want to actually have a reference to this object and apply it, or have some other systems we're going to add to our to-do list. Status effects. That'd be great. Okay. So when we do the opposite of these things, we want to get you out of the table. So first we want to see if you're in the table anyway, at all, because if you if you walk over the zipline but don't press the button, you're still going to end overlap. So for P in pairs, ziplining players, do if P player then. So it's not a bug that if you call this function and the player is not ziplining. If they are, then we got to do some things. We need I, because that's how you remove a thing from a table. Table dot remove ziplining players I. We don't do anything to their velocities, let them keep going, they'll have control suddenly. Alright, so this almost works. There's a couple things we don't want to do. Or this looks like it almost works. Clearly, it's probably got bugs and typos and stuff. We'll fix that in a minute. A couple things we want to do to it is it's not going to set your position at all. It's not going to snap you to the right place to look like you're hanging from the zip line. It's just going to send you wherever you pressed F, which, if it works, I can show you. It didn't do anything to my gravity. How strange. That's actually quite surprising. JavaScript error. Anyway, it sends me along and I fall. But you see that it didn't actually put me on the zipline. It doesn't even do anything with my animation. I should look like I'm hanging from a zipline. Why on earth did that not set my gravity? That is baffling. Gravity scale. What are we on? That's player. What's the other one? Physics object? Projectile, okay. Really? Maybe I fall out of the volume immediately. Let's see. Alright, so start ziplining. We're gonna print A. And zipline, I actually care which place this is coming from, so we're gonna give it a B here. And you know what? His jumping doesn't work. His jumping should be called is falling, I think. I'm curious what that actually does. Player is jumping, so it thinks I'm jumping immediately. If you look at the output, AC, 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 as soon as I press the button, it thinks I'm jumping, despite not having the space bar. I thought there was an is falling. It's flying. Maybe jumping is what I thought was is falling. So it's just, are you in the air? Are you not grounded? That doesn't help me at all. So maybe I do actually have to look if they push the button. Alright, well, let's just get rid of the tick function entirely and try the other approach. Function on binding pressed. Player binding. If binding equals, what is the spacebar? So there are ability bindings here. Spacebar, ability extra 17. Then, and zipline. There. That's going to be called player. Alright, so you have to do a couple more things here. I have to actually look this up. I could change this around a lot. Actually, I'm going to do that. Player event handle. So I need to connect this function to the players when they start ziplining and disconnect it when they end ziplining, which means I need to get an event handle, and storing it in the same table just makes sense. However, this now means zipline players player equals player binding pressed event connect on binding pressed. Alright, so I should put this guy at the top. Doesn't really matter in Lua, but I like being neat about having things referenced or defined before they're referenced. Alright, and then here, if player, then don't need to go through the for loop and find them, it's just indexed by that thing. So if they're there, and then and before we do that, we need to disconnect it. Okay, let's try this guy. So hit the space bar, going to enter zipline, otherwise we end overlap. It's going to enter zipline. Hey, we are ziplining. I can jump and I fall suddenly. This got interesting. I didn't jump. And games that do this generally... Yeah, that's more interesting. 2 bugs. Alright. So the second one there. 3 bugs. Bam. Let's write these down. Zipline bugs. Alright. First, the 2 things we mentioned before. Animation, relative position. Alright. Then we had the direction I went in the zipline was based on where my character was facing, not where my camera was facing. And you generally, if I'm looking this way, I want to go up the thing, not the wrong way. Right? So I'm like... let's try this the other way around. So I'm looking this way. I don't want to go up. That's kind of weird. I want to go where I'm looking. View angle, not capsule angle. And then when I hit the bottom, I didn't end overlapping, despite me running into something and stopping. It just sat there and kept me uncontrolled until I hit space. That doesn't feel right. So check velocity change to end. And the last thing was, when you're hanging from a zipline in a lot of these games and you hit space, you actually jump up. You don't just fall. But since I'm in midair, the game thinks I don't have any jumps, right? Because the default behavior for jumping is you have, no matter how many jumps you have, if you're out or whatever, that's that. So what we want to do is while you're ziplining, we want to give you an extra jump. Oops, don't need to put that anywhere. All right, let us do these things in order. Animation. All right, so back over here in our interpretation, there's animations. What's up? All right, so we're looking at, there's a bunch of different things here. There's animation you can use for abilities, animation places on the body you can socket things. There's, yeah, these are all animations you can put on abilities. At the bottom, there's stances. These are what we can actually control. Each of these is like a one-time play. Sometimes they're looping, but they're like repeated things you do while casting them. These are ways your character stands. Unarmed is the default. There's holding weapons. That's not really what we're doing. None of the weapons you'd hold over your head like a zipline. Unarmed carry object high is, let's see, ideal for holding up a torch. That doesn't quite right. Admittedly, we're going to do a little stretch here. There aren't a huge list of animations, right? A torch isn't quite right. You probably want both hands, maybe? Maybe we'll try that. Low is waist height for like a mug. Nope, that's not what we want. Heavy, 2-handed. Nope. Scorecard, 2 hands above you. That's the other one I want to try. So we'll try this guy and this guy. Sitting in a car, dying. Nope. So, player.animation stance equals that guy. And in end zipline, we will set it back to the one it was before. Arm stance. Okay. That would look all right if I lined it up correctly. No. Let's try, we're going to duplicate this line so we can try one or the other. And we'll fix the other bugs in a minute and come back to this. Unarmed carry scorecard. I think being in the right position for these would also help a lot. The hands aren't quite the right angle, but it kind of works. Alright, let's fix some other bugs and come back to that. We'll do the position in a minute. View angle, not capsule angle. Okay, so player forward. We got their player roll rotation, which is, there's a diagram somewhere, there's a map, I can find a picture for it, but basically, when I spawn, let's turn my head, like there. Alright, so I have a capsule, that's my collision, and that is my world angle. It aligns with the feet generally, so my capsule is looking this way, even though my camera was looking up to the left. There's a look angle and a view angle, and despite me being mainly responsible for coming up with these names, I don't remember which one's which. I need to look them up when I do. Okay, look is what the player is facing, and view is what the person watching, like is where the character's facing, and view is where the player is seeing. So view is this literal view, where look is where my head is going. So they're generally the same thing, but they're games where your camera's face down and your character's looking at your mouse or something like that. I think I want a look angle here. No, I want view angle. View rotation. I want to see where basically wherever the players commanded their camera to look, that's where you want it to go. They're going to look where they want to go. So all we do is change that function. Easy. Extra jump. Oops. I keep doing that. I should actually save these files somewhere. Extra jump is also easy. I believe jump max count is in here. Max jump count. All right. So we are just going to increment this by 1. I really wish Lua had a plus equals operator sometimes, but it does not. And down here, we're going to subtract 1. And jump off it. Great. And velocity change at end and relative position. All right. The position last because that's the hardest one to do, and it depends on the animation. So velocity change basically is we're watching our zipline players, and if they become grounded or their velocity drastically changes, they collide with something, we're just going to make them drop off the zipline. If you collide with another player coming the opposite direction or something, you should just fall, not get stuck or have some strange behavior where you're just kind of sitting there floating for a long time. All right. So we're back to having a tick function for player in pairs, ziplining players. Normally it's the other way around, but this works. I forgot my do. If player dot is grounded, or player dots. The question, the slight hesitation here is, do I care if the players are suddenly much faster than they were before? Not really. If someone wants to give a player a jetpack and have them accelerate on the zipline, whatever. It's only if they've slowed down a lot. Admittedly, someone could make a system where you slow down as you go higher, so then you want that to actually be how it works. They can change the script if they want that way. If this is less than blind speed times 0.9, I'm just putting a fudge factor in here. If I made it exactly less than, it would stop immediately because floating point precision is not perfect, and it would, in one of the next 3 frames, it'd be down by 1 part in a million and not happen. So I'd say if you slow down by 10%, that's enough to end zipline. Okay. So that should do that. We should try all of these things and see how it looks. It errors. Sweet. Get view rotation. Of course you can't do that. That is a bugger. I didn't think about that. So view rotation is the camera angle, and that is a client-only thing. The server doesn't know about that, and for good reason. People often said, oh, this is really frustrating, I have to send it myself, and all those kinds of things. The reasoning is that the player can change the view rotation really fast, right? You can have high sensitivity, you can slam your mouse all over the place. If you try to replicate that to the server, not only would it be a bunch of data sent all the time, but it wouldn't be very useful. Because if you say what direction is the player looking, you're getting what direction they're looking a little while ago, and that can be kind of nonsense. That being said, we do care which direction they're facing when they press the button. And we have a few hacks coming to mind of how to approach this. Let's look at abilities. I think abilities might actually send that information across when you activate them. Yes, target data. So when you use an ability, the local player has targeted something and sends that to the server and says, hey, this is why I want to use this. Okay, we could do that. The other approach we could do is use an event, which should do the same thing without bothering to have an ability, and it's going to do the same thing anyway. So we're going to split this up a little bit. Need client context. I still think this will add a slight delay to it, but I think this is worth it. I think contexts. I think having it go where you're looking is important. And I guess there's already a delay, right? Because when you press F, that's already a client event being sent to the server. All right, zipline client. Zipline client cares about the trigger because it needs to know what direction or what you are interacting with. All right, so we're going to take that and cut out some pieces. Oops. We don't care about end overlap. All we care about is interacted event. Interacted events.broadcast to server. Start zipline. And the things we care about are some ID that the server script can use to match. Basically, every single, if you put a bunch of ziplines in your map, they're all going to have the same script. And it needs to know, hey, are they actually using the right zipline? Is this the one that they tried to use, or is this event going to get caught by all of them and send you on every zipline at the same time? I need your facing, which is, if I make it a vector, I only need a unit vector. I'm giving you 3 points of data for 2.2 degrees of freedom. I could use rotation, same deal. That's probably fine in this case. That being said, I'm actually going to split it into two things, pitch and yaw, because those are the two aspects of rotation that a view can actually have or can affect your forward vector. And events are limited in data, and network traffic's important, by far the most important thing to try to optimize when you're making a game. All right, so where I'm looking, and the player itself, so that the zipline knows which player, because the server is controlling the zipline, needs to know which player to grab and send along the zipline. So that is all I'm doing. Was there a condition in here? No, as soon as you do that, it tries. Okay, there's no case where you hit F and it doesn't zipline you. Great. That being said, this might actually, this checker here I put, might actually, when you're standing on the ground, hit F, it might just stop you immediately. We'll have to check for that. Maybe we just don't want that, or we want a delay on that check. All right, so first, triggered ID. Sometimes I use the actual root, but trigger's fine. It's an object that's unique, and they both have reference to it. I'm going to take this line right here, that guy, get the view rotation, and then the pitch. So our rotations are defined. I grab a rotation. You see it just says XYZ. It doesn't say pitch, yaw, roll, anything like that. The way they are defined, let's grab something that doesn't have. So remember, red is X, green is Y, blue is Z. Those are the rotations around those axes, and they're in the opposite order. Like it will do Z first, then Y then X. So pitch is looking up and down, like you're pitching an airplane. That's rotation around the Y axis, right? And yaw is left and right, it's rotation around the Z axis. So pitch is Y, and yaw is Z. And that is everything this client script needs, I think. Then we're going to change this function on start zip line. Events.connect start zipline. Start zipline. All right, so now we connect to that event the client's going to send, and it has all of these things that I need. Trigger ID. If I equals trigger.ie, so are we the right zipline? If it's someone other zipline, we ignore this. So Y was pitch, D was yaw, zipline, pitch. Yeah, we're gonna add these to this function. Maybe I should construct a rotation out of that, or forward vector. That seems fine. I don't know, there's another way that we'd start a zipline. Forward equals, so now we don't have this anymore, so we make a new rotation. 0 was 0, pitch, yeah, I remember that was the, yaw was Z, pitch was Y. Do that, this should work. We're going to check that in a minute, otherwise. Hey, it didn't stop me. Still have the F prompt, that didn't go away. Probably was true the whole time. let me stop you. That's interesting. Let me jump, but I didn't go very high, or like at all. The jump should be higher. I don't know why. And if I zipline into the ground, it works. Actually, I'm really glad this works. Oh, I need to dismount the player. This looks ridiculous. Haha. And they can change their mounts. Oh, zipline. Okay, that's a new bug. So, I believe there's a can mount. Yep, and a set mounted. Yep, perfect. So, player can mount is false. Player.set mounted false. All right, so this says you can no longer toggle whether or not you're mounted. This says you're no longer mounted. So an end zipline, all we need to do is can mount true, but we don't need to mount you back. All right, so on our to-do list, jump is weak. Can use while ziplining. That is going to be a pain to fix. And relative position. Let's look at relative position. And then try to figure out the animation. So what we want to do is snap the players so that you're in the position so it looks like your hand is on the zip line. But we want to snap them in a way that's... let me get to MS Paint again. Delete everything. All right, here's the zip line. And the player is here. Now to draw MS Paint. We want to snap them in a perpendicular manner. Oh, what have I done? Nope, not you. Yeah. Okay. I should get a good drawing tool, or, you know, a whiteboard. Okay. We want to snap them in a perpendicular manner, the closest spot on the zip line. So, this is a famous interview problem. In fact, I've solved this like 6 times while I'm at this job. Alright. Let's put this at the end. All player position. Right, so the approach to this is we know a point on the zip line. It's the center of the trigger, which is just the world position of the trigger. Let's say that is over here somewhere. And we know we have a vector along the zip line, that is zipline forward up here. So what we want is to find out where this closest point is. So you take a vector, let's see, local player offset equals player position minus trigger get world position. All right, so that's a vector from the trigger to the player. We want the other way around. That's fine. All right. And then we're going to take the dot product of this with this vector along the zip line, and that's going to tell us, and actually multiply it by that same vector. That's going to give us a vector from this point to the closest point, basically along the line of the zip line, the same thing. We're going to subtract that from the other vector. Nearest point equals zipline forward dot player offset times zipline forward player position minus that. So parens around here. It might be a plus. We'll see how this turns out in a minute. Then player set world position nearest point. Okay. We probably want an offset on this for the animation, but for now, I'm going to try and see what it does. Oh, that was not the nearest point at all. So I think it's plus instead of minus, right? Because it sent me way up to the other end of the zip line. Let's find out. Nope, that's the end of the world. I have a bug. Yeah, let's think about this some more. Zipline forward. Player offset. Maybe this is no, that would have done the same thing. My diagram, though, is beautiful. Zipline forward times player offset is the length of that. Multiply by zipline forward, you get a vector there. Should be minus. Okay, so this is a vector. This right here is a vector from this x to this x to this x. No, it's this one. We take the player offset and subtract that. We need an offset in here. Or actually, no, we don't need that at all. What we need is, I see the problem here. Local trigger position. This guy. Alright. So we need to just, we want this point in world space. We just want to take the trigger position and add this vector we got, not try to deal with the offset. Let's do that. There's sort of two meanings for vectors in 3D space. There's a different, like an offset from one point to another, and there's an absolute position, and they get muddied together a lot. Okay, so that was kind of near where I was. Not crazy off. And yes, it puts my crotch right in the thing because I'm way too high. Okay, so, ooh, zipline server 42. And zipline. Sure, so we call this on. Is there a tick that goes in after that? I guess so. That's strange. If object dot is valid player, basically is the player here anymore? If not, don't bother trying to deal with all this stuff. In fact, we don't have to deal with this line because this is an event handler on the player, so if the player's gone, it's not there anymore either. All we need to do is just clear out the thing on the table. Okay. Alright, so what we want to do to set world position plus, we want to just offset you down. We don't want to try to do anything fancy, rotate the player or anything. It's going to look really weird if you're just slanted at an angle. Up, I guess we're going to minus times, the character is about 2 meters tall, which is really tall, but do 100 and see how close that looks. Not very tall. Your hands are way above your head. See how that goes through my head? Maybe 150? With some objects you can... 43, really? Interesting bug. That was pretty close to my hands. Alright, so the scorecard looks alright. I'm just kind of hanging. We'll try the other animations to see how that looks. I have to move myself up, but I feel like the arm's not high enough, right? Like if I say some objects like that aren't players, you can just click them, pause, and drag them in the right place and look at the transform and see how to line that up. I feel like if I get this so my hand is on the zip line, I'm going to be like my arm is going to be in the zipline. It's going to look really ridiculous. So I'm going to try I'm just going to use the other animation. Alright, so fly up the zipline, fly down the zipline. More bugs. So we should actually switch the player's capsule. Set the rotation. I'm going to do this. It's going to look correct, but in multiplayer it won't work. And that is a bug we're fixing soon, so I'm willing to just leave it there. Set world rotation. Rotation.new. Rotation has an operator that takes 2 vectors. We're going to actually put this in here with the velocity because it's going to have the same condition. The one is zipline forward, or negative zipline forward. The other one is an up reference. So we just give it vector 3 up because the player's capsule should always be rotated up. Basically, it will guarantee to rotate towards this vector, and then it'll use this one as a way to check the roll value. So that will appear to... Ooh, nope. That made me go at an angle. That's not what I wanted at all. How do I... Let's see if these have to be normalized. I can cut pieces out of them. Rotation.new. Okay, no, it's happy with them being random lengths. So what we want to do with the zipline forward is cut out the z coordinate. We want this to be the horizontal piece of it, in this case. We can vector, let's see how long this line gets. That's manageable. I think another thing we could have done is cast that to a vector 2, then back to a vector 3, or define outside the loop. Alright, line up. Hands are a little bit high. Why did they get higher? I don't know why they got higher. That's confusing. It's a little inconsistent. That's fine. Alright. So, what do I have left? So there was that bug. Go underground. So, jump is weak. I don't know why. It feels like it's weaker than my normal jump, so I can jump like 2 meters, 1.5 meters. Oh, you know why? Okay, first of all, I couldn't even jump there, but... Did my multi-jump thing stop working? Why would that stop working? That is confusing. Player. Max jump count. Jumping. Is there like a current jump count? That's it. Let's see what I'm setting it to after this. I'm quite surprised this is not letting me jump. What I was going to say about it being weak. 2. Yeah, it thinks I have 2 jumps. Wild. Alright. So rather than do that, I'm just going to cheat. So we're just going to take this right out and not understand why it doesn't work. Max jump count. Alright. So if you hit the spacebar right up here, we're going to end up applying. We're just going to apply an impulse to you. Player apply impulse. This is a physics whack, basically. A impulse is a force times a time or a change in momentum, which is mass times velocity. I believe player just has a mass field. This is a vector, so we want it to go directly up. That's how jumps normally work. In video games, jumps tend to just set your y velocity or your z velocity, and maybe that's what we should be doing. Yeah, let's do it that way. I want it to feel like a normal jump. Um, player velocity equals, actually, you know what? Yeah, sure. Right, so here, there's a jump speed, I believe it's called. Jump speed. Right here. I believe that's literally just the value we're going to set this to. Player.jump speed. I don't know if this is actually the name of the field. And then we're going to player set velocity, player velocity. So we're making a jump. Oof. All right. Let me double check those are actually what these things are called. Jump velocity. Yep. Okay, perfect. So we have fixed jump is weak, hopefully. Let's test a little bit. Error. Number received nil, 13. Jump speed, that was just said. Jump velocity. Why do we call it velocity when it's a speed? Still feels really weak. Might just be an artifact of how it, like, just how it feels. Like if you watch. Let's see if I'm going down the zipline if it really launches me. Oh! I'm gonna cheat. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make this trigger a little bigger. Here to grab the zipline. Yeah, it feels pretty strong. The very angled zipline it feels. You know what? That's funny. Applying the impulse actually is I'm gonna cheat and do this. I'm gonna add that amount to your speed. So instead of setting my Z speed, I add that amount. So it feels kind of weak going up the zipline still. And kind of weak going down. Alright. I want it to be strong enough that it gets you out of the thing, so I'm just gonna, like, I don't know, multiply by 2.0, make it feel strong. Ooh, I forgot that jumps are quadratic. The velocity, like the height you go is proportional to the speed squared. That's a very strong jump. That feels about right. We'll leave it for now. Bunch of hackery in here. Great. Alright, so I had this bug where I grabbed the zipline right at the bottom and put me underground and just dropped me off the map. I don't know. There's a lot going on here, right? So it tries to find the closest spot to the zipline, for me to the zipline, which is like right here, and then it tries to put me there, but that's like embedded in the ground, so it puts me underneath the ground, and that's bad. This can be fixed just by level design, by putting the ziplines in the right places so you don't ever teleport into the ground, which is probably the right. Jaw says this might seem strong if zipline is horizontal. That's a good point. I should test this. But basically just level design, don't put your ziplines embedded in the ground. It's probably the solution I'm going to go with. I could do something like don't. Part of this is don't fall off the zipline at all. Give it a little grace period when you hit F. For a half second. Don't do the normal checks that would drop you off. I could try to do traces or see if you're grounded and try to assume the ground is flat. There's a lot of ways this could fail. I'm just going to leave it. Let us take our zipline and duplicate it. And that doesn't mean terrible. That's right. We'll fix this in a minute. We'll fix it in post. We're going to cut the rotation off that guy. terrible thing I did was I put the rotation on the elements of the zipline, not the zipline itself. All right, so now I have a horizontal zipline. I jump. That doesn't feel too strong. All right. So the last thing is I don't want you to be able to use the zipline. I don't want the prompt for the zipline you're on while you're on it. Unfortunately, the tools given in core right now, this is somewhat limited. If you look at a trigger itself, let's look at the second one for now since they're not templates yet. Look at the trigger itself. It's either interactable or it's not, and it can be team-based. So you could make it. There's some things you can do where you have a game that's friendly and everyone's on the same team, and you toggle people's teams to make different behavior on the fly. That is very limited. A lot of games do not have this. And even worse than that, you actually have to have it not be a friendly, like if you look at your team settings object, you can't have it on friendly, because if you do, then different teams don't actually have different collisions. It has to be team versus. That being said, I'm not going to do that. There's way too many ways that fall apart, and it will be improved soon. This is definitely a thing we know about and want to improve. I guess soon with, quotes around it. Who knows where it is on the schedule. Some people know. I don't know. So what I'm going to do instead is make it not do anything if you push F layer on the zipline. And you have to, it's kind of a little, feels a little buggy. I will improve it when we can. And then I'll just put there, when I share this in community content, I'll put a little blurb that explains that limitation. So on start zipline, this is the event the client sends and says, hey, we're trying to zipline here. If you are already ziplining, it doesn't do anything. And not. Okay. So basically say, hey, are you already, if you're not ziplining, then you can do this, otherwise it does nothing. Let's close our to-do and try to get on the zipline. Nope, through the ground again. I should have done that. Huzzah. So pressing F does nothing. If I jump and then press F, but as soon as I jump, I can press F. But until then, I cannot. Alright, so we're getting this. That's annoying. I don't know what I can do about that. Maybe there's another way we can solve that problem. We can do it on player left event handler. Function on player left. Let's see if this solves this problem. Game player left event. Alright, so what we're going to do, instead of trying to deal with this, which didn't work, write that down. If you leave, we can't do any of these things. Instead, we just clear you out of the table. And if you weren't in the table anyway, this does nothing. Nothing. Great. Fixed. Alright, we've made a zipline. It appears to function. We haven't tested multiplayer, which probably means it doesn't function. We're going to find out. Let's make these a little bit smaller. Alright, so this works. Didn't turn me around, as I said. The rotation would not work. The first time I did it, I seemed to press F and nothing happened, though. I don't know if you saw that. Looks like the other guy. Nope. Okay, maybe I just missed it. There could be a little bit of latency issue where if you're not quite on, it doesn't work. Yes, okay, so I'm seeing what's happening there. So the player settings take a second to apply because they have to get networked. And this is, given that this is local preview, it's pretty fast. If I actually post this, it might feel a lot worse. So what's happening is, when we start ziplining, we set the position of the player, and we turn off their gravity, but the gravity takes a second to apply, and the player still falls a little bit. Admittedly, they're just at the same time. Somehow they get there at different times in the client. And if you fall just enough, you end overlap, and it ends zipline immediately. So what we're going to do is put a little weight in here, the designer solution. Let the gravity take effect before we set the position and do everything else. In fact, yeah, basically we're going to do gravity first and then weight, and then do everything else. Let's see how this works. It's going to make it a little more delayed, but hopefully we won't have this problem anymore. And that might be way more time than we needed. But 0.2 is about right for a networking thing, right? If a ping of 200 is a pretty mediocre ping, but someone might have, or you might have a little spike, you don't want things to fall apart. Ah, still throwing me out. Might play with this more tomorrow. That feels even worse. I gotta figure this out. I have a strange workflow that occasionally blocks my mouse entirely from doing anything. Okay, mouse is back. How does it set my velocity without setting my gravity? I set the gravity scale. I wait. That's wild. You mount your stance. Set velocity, rotation, position. Huh, I'm kind of lost. I'm going to have to look into this in more detail tomorrow. Give me a second here to fix my mouse again. Oof. Thanks, Sid. It has not been half an hour. You are correct. All right. I'm gonna leave it there. I was hoping to publish this, but that seems like a large issue that it would be kind of, people would take this, put in things, and it would feel bad. The last thing that I know how to do here, before I try to figure out what's going on with that, is I want the pieces inside of it to be aligned in a way that is useful. So I'm going to zero out the rotations. And which way do I want? We'll do it this way. Okay, so that goes forward and backward. Then I'll hit this client context, and it doesn't matter where it is. We'll zero it out just for good measure. And maybe give that 100 instead of a nonsense value. Get this guy out of here. Create template. Alright, well, we have Zipline. Hopefully I can figure this out tomorrow and share it. People can use it in their games. I think that's exciting. Let me know what you want to see next time. I have lots of ideas for things I could do, but if there are things you want me to build, if you want me to do simpler things, if you want me to try to make art or play games or whatever, let me know. Be awesome. Alright, thank you for watching, everyone, and you have a good evening.